Got news coming from every corner of the NFL. It is Maggie and Perloff. We're coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We're streaming live, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. And now we get a chance, Perloff, to talk to a guy who's been breaking some of this news over the last couple days. It's our buddy Jordan Schultz, NFL insider for The Score, host of the Schultz Report. Jordan, today has been super busy for you. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. You know, I was going to come in studio.
Yeah.
That was the plan. Unfortunately, I had to bail on Andrew. He was really upset. He sent me a couple negative texts.
What happened?
Negative text.
You know what happened was the deal. To be honest, I knew it was going to come close, but I never thought it was going to come to 355. I thought it'd be 330, 315, but this is like really, really close. And when you're talking about 4 years, $160 million, that's generally what happens. So I get it, but it was tight.
I actually saw this coming. I saw, first of all, that the Lamar Jackson news came out really late, that he got the non-exclusive tag. Mm-hmm. So that already put you behind the 8 ball. And then Daniel Jones had him broken by 3 o'clock. I'm like, oh, Jordan's bailing. I could tell, not bailing, because you're on the phone.
Totally bailed. I totally bailed. But I can tell you, I have over 700 unread texts from the last 18 hours. And I did reply to you because you know what? I do love you guys.
But wait, Jordan,
thank you.
How could it go this late? I mean, are they really negotiating up into this hour, or is this really when they were ready to release the news?
What it came down to was incentives, escalators, and I think he got 82 million guaranteed at signing. And another 35 million in incentives. So basically what happened was they had a deal somewhat in place, but they needed to find the incentives that made sense for both sides, that didn't hurt their cap. And then also they had a guy named Saquon Barkley. And so, they had talked to Saquon, and that obviously didn't happen. He gets the tag at 10.1. But that my interpretation going into this morning, and I was up pretty late last night, was they were going to get a deal done. But, again, I thought it would happen, an hour or two earlier, maybe half an hour earlier. So it got very close, but this is ultimately what both sides wanted. I can't stress that enough. Daniel Jones at 26, former top 10 pick, comes off 22 touchdowns last season, 5 picks, obviously cut the fumbles way down, and they won their first playoff game in 11 years. And they wanted to find that happy medium, and I think they found it.
Jordan, so let's just go through the details, because we had not heard yet about the guaranteed money. So it was reported as 4 years, 160, but you're telling us it's 82 million.
82 guaranteed at signing, so that's automatic.
Yep.
And based on incentives, which will be built-in games played, numbers. I'm sure it'll be, if there's a Pro Bowl in there, that type of thing, All-Pro, he can get up to $35 million in incentives.
Okay, and what about in terms of the years for that? You get the $82 million guaranteed, and you hate to do this on the day a guy signs, but, when can they get out of this contract if they want to? And that's no disrespect to Daniel Jones, but clearly they're not making a long-term commitment to him. Do you know how much of a commitment they're actually making in terms of years?
So he's 25 years old. The first 2 years till he's 27, he's 82 million. That's where that guaranteed number comes in. So technically there would be an out, I would imagine, after the second or third year when he's 27, 28. But this is it's obviously a substantial contract, and he I don't know how reported this was, but he left CAA about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and went to Athletes First. And that, I don't know if that slowed it down, but it certainly impacted the contract negotiations. I would say in a way maybe it did slow it down, because even though they hadn't made a lot of momentum yet at CAA, there was a thought of, here's where we're going. And so ultimately, when you switch an agent that late, it does impact the timing of the deal.
No doubt. Jordan Schultz is joining us. He's an NFL insider for The Score. He's a host of the Schultz Report and a good friend of the show. There was a report that the negotiations between Jones and the Giants had gotten contentious last night. Jordan, anything there that we should be aware of?
No, I think ultimately, contentious is, I don't know if that's the right word. They were up until the wee hours of the night because I was getting text at 2 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
So I think it was still, I don't know if it was contentious. I think that maybe the right word would be heated in a way that's probably to be expected. I mean, you're making a commitment to a player who, you're building your franchise around. He's now the face of the franchise, and you're also telling Saquon Barkley, that you're not the face. You're not the
right.
face anymore because he's been that guy for the last 4 years. So there's a lot there, and I think as a result, with Daniel Jones last night, they wanted to. I think both sides felt like we have to get a deal done, but Daniel needed to get that. I think he needed to get 80+ in guarantee. That was important. And on the Giants side, they really wanted the 4 years, where in theory Daniel's camp would have wanted 3.
So was there a market outside of New York for Daniel Jones, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I tried to do during the Combine in Indianapolis was gather about, worst case scenario if it doesn't work out with Daniel and they don't tag him, what would be the market if the Giants let him go? And it was significant. There were 3 or 4 teams that would have jumped at the opportunity and probably would have paid him roughly the same amount. So the Giants knew that, and as a result, they were able to get it done.
Any chance you can tell us those teams or no?
I think you could probably figure them out without me saying them. Is that okay?
Teams that are probably not picking high in the draft but still need a quarterback?
Can you wink if Maggie guesses them correctly, Jordan?
Right. Wait, Maggie, aren't you who's your team? Are you an Eagles fan?
No, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan.
I'm an Eagles fan.
You're a Bills fan, right?
Jordan, I'm an
Andrew's an Eagles fan.
Yeah,
right.
thankfully the Bills are good for now.
It wasn't either one of those, I promise you that.
There had been a report earlier in the year from The Athletic that Barkley was offered $12 million a year and had declined it. Now he gets the franchise tag for $10 million. Obviously, that was earlier this season. Okay, yeah. Jordan, but the Giants was not the only work you were doing in the last couple days. You're busy breaking news about Geno Smith and the Seahawks. 3 years, $75 million, $30 million guaranteed at signing. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, so with Geno, this I would say a lot different situation. You have a guy who's 32, a little older, a little more experienced, although he hasn't played a lot, but in Seattle's case and Geno's case, both sides were extremely motivated to get that deal done because Seattle was betting on the person. And I think, that's similar to what New York did. They're betting on a person as well as the player. And, in talking to Geno throughout the season as he continued to have success, as well as guys like DK Metcalf and Noah Fant, important players, one of the key factors I heard was the Geno this became his team really quickly, and that wasn't easy to do, in the wake of Russell Wilson. And obviously that was a kind of a nasty divorce between the Seahawks and Russell. But Geno comes in and he just took everything and was able to make it his team. And I asked Geno during the season, it was actually before the Giant game, pretty early, but he had already had some success. And I said to him, what's been the key for you? And his answer was the preparation and confidence and the relationships with both Pete Carroll and Shane Waldron, the OC, and specifically with Pete, feeling like he was empowered, Maggie and Andrew, feeling like if it was okay if he made a mistake, that he wasn't going to be pulled. And I think those things all played into it. And ultimately, Geno gets a really good deal for him. And, it doesn't mean that Seattle won't take a quarterback, maybe at 5, maybe in the second round. They also pick late in the first. But it does mean that they're committed to him for at least the next 2 years. Yeah,
I was going to ask about that draft, Jordan. Say the number 5, say they wanted, let's say, name Anthony Richardson. How do you feel if you're Geno Smith? You just signed a deal, then they take a pick at number 5, and you can say the guy's going to sit there, but a lot of times team draft guys pretty high and say they're going to sit, then they end up playing pretty soon. Would Geno feel disappointed by that move?
That's a great question. I don't think so because they're committed to him financially now, and the contract really does say that, at least over the next 2. I talked to him last night and then again this morning. And not only was he excited, but, he said, I'm ready to get back to work. And, he was already, working out today. And listen, would he be disappointed? I don't know the answer to that. I certainly wouldn't. If I'm him, I wouldn't be thrilled if Seattle drafted a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. But he did see the benefit for him of sitting behind Russ. He actually had a really good relationship with Russ and still does. And I would imagine, if anything, that he would be one of those kind of guys, that would help a young player, because he was Eli's backup, and Eli really helped him as he was going through that transition. Yeah. Jordan Schultz is joining us. Of course, he's an NFL insider for The Score. He's the host of the Schultz Report, also just friend of the show. Super busy day for you, Jordan. Okay, so the other big news, there's 2 other big things. Woody Johnson and the Jets landed, according to Rich Cimini of the NFL Network, in Camarillo, California. Yeah. We're Google mapping this. It's near Oxnard.
We determined it's sort of near L.A.
Yeah.
the idea that Rodgers and the Jets, are you hearing anything like this is happening, or what's your sense?
I've always felt like, or at least over the last, month here, that the Jets were all in on Aaron Rodgers and that Derek Carr was somewhat of a contingency plan with respect to D.C. And I think with Rodgers, they feel like the Jets do, that they have a really good young roster and that they're just missing the quarterback. If you look at who they drafted, and they've hit on a lot of these picks, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore's a good young player, obviously Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson. They have all these really good young players, but they don't have that franchise quarterback. And obviously, who knows what will happen with Zach Wilson? I really don't know. But I can tell you that their thought process is we would rather have Aaron Rodgers for potentially 2 years than Derek Carr for 3 or 4. And I don't blame him for that. I mean, you're still talking about a guy who won back-to-back MVPs 2 years ago. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. And I wouldn't be surprised if this happened. He obviously has the connection with Nathaniel Hackett, who was the OC in Green Bay and is now the OC in New York as well.
Wow. The other big story today, obviously, Jordan, is Lamar Jackson got the non-exclusive tag. Were you surprised by that, and what do you think happens next year?
I was surprised. Let me ask you this: as football fans who watch a lot of the NFL, doesn't it feel like the Ravens and Lamar are in a somewhat similar position as the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, where they have an MVP quarterback, but for whatever reason, they have not been on the same ground for a long time?
Interesting.
Well, it's weird because Rodgers, though, feels he's been there for 18 years where Lamar Jackson has not been there as long. So that's the only difference.
Lamar Jackson's been there since 2018.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But we get what you're saying.
He's only 26. He's a former MVP. The tag's going to cost $32.4. There's been all kinds of rumors, and it's been really hard to navigate it in terms of Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. One of the reasons is because the Ravens are traditionally a pretty tight-lipped franchise, and Lamar doesn't have an agent. So when you're trying to get information, it's difficult. My sense with Lamar is he is obviously not happy with the offers he's got, and he doesn't feel like that he can be there long term, that he can be happy. And Eric DeCosta says, we haven't reached a long-term deal, but we're still going to negotiate in good faith, the GM of the Ravens. I don't really see a situation where he ends up with the Ravens long term. I don't know how that's possible given what's happened, and now you have the non-exclusive, which allows other teams to negotiate.
Jordan, any idea what other teams might be serious about Lamar? Because we're seeing reporting today that Atlanta and Carolina
not interested.
And
that surprised me. Specifically with actually both teams. Carolina drafted Matt Corral. He didn't play all year. Obviously, they have not had a quarterback since Cam Newton. In Atlanta's case, Desmond Ridder is someone they obviously like. He's a third-round pick, but hasn't really played. So it's a little early for me on that. But the team that I could tell you throughout the combine that I just kept thinking this team makes the most sense would probably be Atlanta, and that's nothing against Desmond Ridder, but they have some nice pieces there, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and ultimately, if they were to try to make a push at a quarterback, it would make a lot of sense for them to get Lamar Jackson. So if you're just going through the teams right now, who needs a quarterback? You have the Texans, you have the Colts, you have some AFC teams, obviously the Jets, but I was surprised.
Commanders.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was surprised, honestly. Full transparency that Atlanta was reported not to be interested in him.
So, Jordan, you mentioned the Combine. What was the name that was talked about the most at the Combine? Was it a player? Was it a draft prospect? Was it a veteran like Aaron Rodgers? Who were most of the side discussions about?
It was definitely – Anthony Richardson took over for 48 hours.
Right.
Because he met with all the top 10 teams. I think I reported 10 or 12 teams that he met with, including – the Bears, the Saints, the Texans, all these teams that could have had a high pick. But then he goes out and at 6'4.5", 244, runs a 4.4 and jumps over 40 inches. That wasn't shocking because everyone knew he was a freak, but it was like, oh my goodness, he really is that guy. I think the running backs, it's a really, really strong running back and tight end class with as many as 10 or 11 tight ends potentially being drafted and running backs as well. And the name that came up for me was Jahmyr Gibbs, out of Alabama, because everyone knew how good Bijan Robinson is, and he looked super smooth and he crushed it. But the comp that I kept getting for Gibbs was Alvin Kamara. And if you can get Alvin Kamara in the second round, which is where Gibbs is mostly being mocked, or late first, it's going to be a hell of a play for your offense. So I was really excited to hear that, because we saw the production at Alabama, we saw the production at Georgia Tech, and now you see him coming in as maybe Alvin Kamara 2.0.
Wow. By the way, the thing about Anthony Richardson, had one of the greatest athletic profiles. That's a new term about the combine. How would Jordan Schultz measure? You were in NB. What
are you talking about, Jordan? You played at a higher level in college than any of us in this room.
Yeah. What's your 40 now? What's your vertical?
I would probably go, I think, 6'2" and 5/8 without shoes.
Okay.
Probably 6'4" wingspan, a little bit longer arms.
There you go.
Probably a 5'2" 40.
Maggie got
lightning speed.
Okay.
Lightning speed.
Yeah, lightning speed. And I believe, and I'm not 100% on this, but I believe I have the worst vertical leap in the history of Seattle U basketball. It's 23.
Hey, you're in the record books for something, Jordan.
I am slow. I am not in great shape currently. I mean, this insider game is killing me. And
I don't want to hear
all
excuses.
Hours of the night. I mean, up till 2 a.m.
Jake Glazer's MMAing left and right. Don't give me that excuse.
I saw Jay in Indy, and I thought, man, this guy looks like he could go fight right now.
Yeah.
And he might fight you if you look at him the wrong way. Jordan, last one for me. This has been excellent. Congrats on a great, last couple days. It's the last couple weeks, really. It's been awesome. Anything about Miami? Like, this is the crazy unknown. Like, now we're getting whispers. Rich Eisen is hearing rumors about Tom Brady in Miami. Like, is it too early to say what's going on down there? Yeah,
I mean, I saw that, and I'm just thinking, if Tom Brady came back again, it would truly break. Actually, it wouldn't even break, because everyone would be like, okay, yeah, he's back. I don't see that happening. I think my understanding is that they are committed to Tua. That they believe in him, and obviously he's had the concussions, and that is a problem.
Sure.
But I do think it will be Tua next year, and I think, and I would be surprised if it wasn't, to be totally honest.
Jordan, this is awesome. We know you're busy. Good luck getting back to those 700 text messages.
I got to come in the studio. Maybe next week during free agency I'll come in, because right now my mouth is parched. I need water. But I'll come in fresh. I'll take a shower, and I'll look like a normal person.
I think you and I need to have a jump off too. Now that I understand that you're Seattle,
it'd be bad. Plus, you were in Hustle, so you're a good actor.
But I, like you, am slow and cannot jump.
Jordan, thanks so much. Try to get some sleep if you can.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.